Kids these days. When I say this term, we often think of the children who were born with iPhones or iPads in their hand, and those children whose most of the material needs are being met by their parents. And of course, I'm talking about the kids living in relatively stable environment and relatively affluent family who can at least offer them three-course meal, good schooling, and a relatively stable environment. So I'm talking about kind of kids who live in upper middle class or even middle class families, and whose parents are probably like us, I'm assuming, whose upbringing was mostly middle class or upper middle class, and we lived in a time where internet was not given to us when we were born. I'm slightly exaggerating. Of course, we don't give the internet to our children when they're born, but they have the technology and availability as soon as they come in the world. So what happens is we are starting to talk about these children as if they designed this kind of life for themselves, and but we definitely assume that they have it easier. They are given everything served on a platter, and that they're getting lazier than our generation was. And there are many other assumptions that we are making, but overall what we are thinking or assuming that they have an easier life, and that's making them lazy. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more, and I've been thinking about this topic for a while, and then one day it struck me that these children that we are talking about are probably dealing with much bigger stress, much more complexity than we did. First of all, when we were growing up, we had our friends, our neighbors, and our friends in school, mainly, who were our peers. So all that so-called peer pressure was coming from a very limited number of people, and also very manageable because those peers were almost like us. They lived in a family like us, they had a life like us, right? But think about our children who have this wide access to the internet. Their peers are all over the world, and their peers have a lot more and a lot different, in some cases a lot less than them as well. But human beings, we tend to compare ourselves with people who have a lot more than us. So for them, the peer pressure is so much more wider, so much more deeper and complex, and also difficult for them to manage. So I feel like our children have a lot more stress and a lot more complex world to deal with. So they are not just dealing with their family, their school, their teachers. They're dealing with this whole wide world who are telling them how to be, how to look, how to behave, how to talk about things, and how to think about things. So just imagine for those little fragile minds tackling all these problems at all these different levels. So I've been thinking about that, and then that's sometimes I used to blame myself, and I used to say, yeah, but we are the generations that are raising them, so why are we even complaining about the way they're turning out? And then I'm thinking, okay, the upbringing or raising them is only one aspect of their life, but a very big aspect. So understanding that thing, what has given to me is that now I have a lot more sympathy for them, a lot more understanding for our children, particularly the Gen Zs who who are going through this. And plus, let's not forget that they have endured a massive pandemic. They are enduring this existential threat that the media is telling them, and also there is a lot of reality in it of the climate change, of the political divide. People are really becoming more intolerant. What we see in media and what we see in these elections, the kind of leaders that we are seeing that are becoming the prime ministers and presidents of the country, the kind of examples that they're setting must be quite baffling to them. A lot of these children are concerned about their future, their jobs, the kind of studies that they are doing. Even they know that they would need much more. They would need many different skill sets to thrive and survive in the coming future. So I just think that they have a lot going on in their mind, and kids being kids, they really do not have the capacity yet to think in long term. They do not have the capacity to deal with contradictions that life presents. They don't have the capacity to look at something as paradoxical and be okay with it. A lot of adults can't do that either. So from that perspective, I feel like we should start to look at them through this lens, start to understand how much more complexity they're dealing with, how much more difficult their life is. Yes, they have much more material things for them, given to them. They have a lot more clothes than we had. They have a lot more toys. They have a lot more objects to play with. But they also have a lot more problems to deal with, much more than us. They have a lot more exposure to everything that's going on around the world. They have a lot more people telling them how to be, how to think, what to do, other than their parents and just neighbors and friends at school. So I think they're dealing with much more complexity, and I think in my mind that will in the long run lead to helping them, because the more complexity they're dealing with now, the more capable they will be of solving big complex problems. So that's a really good thing. However, for them to thrive and flourish and for them to think that they're okay, we should be giving the kind of environment at home where they are confident and comfortable that their parents understand them, that their parents are not constantly telling them that they're lazy, that they're always on their phone, they're always on their laptop. A lot of times they need to be on technology, to be in tune with technology, to do their schoolwork, to actually thrive, to actually get by. So they're not always lying to us when they're on their iPhones or laptops. They may be doing actual work, and sometimes we need to understand that. Of course, as parents, we have to discipline them also, we have to guide them also, absolutely do them, but with this full understanding of how these little people with fragile growing mind and fragile growing upbringing and characteristic that are still forming and building, how many avenues they have to get their information, to be influenced and everything, and to be concerned about their future. A lot of these kids have a lot more stress than we can imagine. They're stressed out, they're confused, they are very sometimes they're exhausted by everything that's going around them. So let's stop and let's listen to our children. Let's not just tell them that they're being lazy and that they have it easy. They really do not have it easy all the way. So that would be something that I'm sharing with all the parents, something that I've been thinking about, something that I've been sharing, and something that I also shared with my children, and they agreed with what I'm saying, and they actually it seemed like they felt really good, that I'm beginning to understand what they're going through. There is a lot more that we have to learn, but these are some of the things that I have come across, and I thought of sharing this with all the parents out there. Our kids are going through a lot more than we think. Let's just give them the comfortable place, the place at home where they can come, they can share everything, they can unwind, they can unload themselves, and then go on with their lives. And with that, I just wanted to thank all the parents who are out there struggling and juggling with their children and raising them into great human beings.